all of our council members here. Are there any disclosures of interest by any members? I'll take that as a no, and we will record that. So we will move to item 3, which is the conferment of degrees, and you will have noted, for obvious reasons, it's a slightly longer list. It's by the authority vested in me by resolution of the University of Auckland Council, I, Scott St John, confer the degrees stated upon those who, within their several faculties, have satisfied the requirements of this university. And we will move similarly to the award of diplomas. By the authority vested in me by resolution of the University of Auckland Council, I, Scott St John, Chancellor, award the diplomas stated to those who, within their several faculties, have satisfied the requirements of this university. So that done, we will deal with the minutes, part A, from the meeting of 16 March, which seems like an eternity ago, but we're all sitting face to face. Has anyone got any comments on those minutes? So we will take them as a fair and accurate view. So I will move. Can someone second, please?
I'm happy to, Scott. Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. So we will now move to the Vice-Chancellor's report. Dawn, we welcome you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chancellor, and hello to everyone who is not visible on the screen. What I'd like to do is I'll just talk through some of the highlights in the report, and I may also ask Adrian to comment on one or two of the items that are contained. It's quite a lengthy report, so I'm taking it as read. I want to start by acknowledging the outstanding achievement that was announced last week for the university to remain and retain its #1 slot as the university leading on the Sustainable Development Goals through the Times Higher Education rankings. It's a significant achievement to retain that ranking, not least because of the increase in numbers of universities that submitted in a whole range of areas. So I want to start by acknowledging that and congratulating all of the staff that have been involved in that achievement to date. And of course, we retain it for a year, so please feel free to talk about it and to continue to get behind that achievement wherever you can, in whatever forum you can. The other thing I'd just like to acknowledge in this report is that you'll see that we've been able to quite extensively include the work of the PVC Pacific. So Damon has now started to infuse the work of this strategy throughout a number of the KPIs, and we're seeing those throughout the report, and I'll refer to some of those as we go through. So I'm going to just pick out, I'm not going to focus too much on the health and safety highlights. Of course, we're happy to take questions on any of these items. And I'll move actually through to item 2. I've already mentioned some of the work that's in item 2 that has come through from the PVC Pacific and the strategic plan that's being developed there. And the goals of the academic leadership framework, which were endorsed by the VCDD and which will be really important in terms of supporting student-centric decisions as we go forward. So very pleased to see that now starting to take shape and be implemented. Under 2.9, I think most of you will be aware, but one of the key issues around particularly the COVID agenda and with a new Vice-Chancellor coming in has been the importance of me getting in front of the staff and having the staff across and aware of the developments and decisions that are being made in response to COVID-19 and also in preparation for our new strategy. And so there have already been a couple of all staff forums. These would normally be face-to-face, but of course we're managing them online at the moment, and there's going to be a further forum tomorrow with an opening to talk about what the IMT group are doing and to talk more broadly about the student engagement and research activities. They've been really well attended and we'll continue to do them throughout this period of time where we're unable to meet face to face. Importantly, there are numerous questions coming through those forums, and what we've done is collated the questions that we've been unable to answer directly in the forum and put together a web page where we've got frequently asked questions where we're attempting to address the concerns and the questions of the staff, which of course are very broad, and I'll come back to that in a moment. On item 3, I wasn't going to spend too much time talking about the Fs. This is one of the things that of course we'll be talking about on the agenda later, but we've already heard today and the work that's ongoing that you're aware of from Auckland Online and the opportunities for the development of micro-credentials and the summer school activities which are referenced within this particular item. Again, happy to take questions on that, and I'm sure that other members of the team would be willing to do so as well. One thing just to say is that we did run a specific forum for all postgraduate students. Jim led that with Carolyn last week, and that was another really well attended forum and an important forum for the researchers and the postgrad students to think about how they can continue with business continuity in this period through the level 3 and potential level 3 alert lockdowns. If I go then to item 4 here, high quality research, again, we can see that there is some input this time from our PVC Pacific. We are going to be addressing a number of things related to ethics and research on our agenda later, so I'm going to leave it at that and go directly to sustainable autonomous university and acknowledging under 5.3 the major gifts and pledges that were received in January and February of this year, which are significant and outstanding. And you'll note the commentary there around the foundation. And of course, in the first 6 weeks of my tenure, I have been able to write to our donors and alumni and attempt to keep a level of engagement around the activities, both that they've committed to, but also engage them in the activities that we're planning around the student hardship going forward. I'll continue to move through, and I wanted to pick up on item 7 and particularly around the treaty, but to recognise actually the launch of the Te Reo language plan, which was launched on the 7th of April. And this is a really significant achievement, and I want to congratulate the team that have been involved in getting us to this point. And I believe tomorrow we're going to be able to launch the app that goes with that. So a really outstanding development there. If I can then perhaps move on to, I think I'll go directly to item 9. As you will no doubt be aware, a significant amount of time has gone into the responses to COVID-19, and that's quite a condensed report, but it doesn't really take account of the extensive work that the team have been involved in and the staff have responded to, and it's been phenomenal to see the way in which the staff have responded to the significant ask that has been required of them over the last few weeks. There is now, as you'll be aware, a move away from this being viewed as an incident, although it's still being managed as an incident in terms of looking at the levels and the matrix across those levels, towards more of a business recovery strategy. And the business recovery group, which is mentioned in here and which you're familiar with now, mentioned under 9.14, I think, is now up and running to help with directing the traffic following the work of the IMT. I think it's worthwhile pointing out that under 9.4 accommodation, you may have read over the weekend that there was some media interest around the ways in which we've continued to charge student fees around accommodation and the comments around that from the various members of the community and from members of Parliament, but also particularly because different universities have taken a different tack on this. We've been very clear about the way in which we've addressed this and have made a very detailed response to the media. They have not necessarily picked it all up with accuracy. And a lot of what was in the media at the weekend was inaccurate, but we have been able to respond fully to the questions that have been asked of us, both from government and from parents who have been quite concerned about some of the things that they've been reading. I think then finally, I might just move to something that's not in the report today, but it is relevant to the work that we're doing around the planning for the workforce of the future, and particularly recognising that staff at the moment are of course concerned about employment security in the immediate term. And I've made very clear statements that no long-term plans will be made at the moment around the workforce planning, because we're developing new strategy, and it's going to be important that the strategy leads those decisions. However, we have received from the State Service Commission some information yesterday and today related to restriction around the pay and pay freezes for staff going forward, and there'll be a communication going out around that tomorrow, and we have an all staff forum tomorrow, so we'll make sure that we're really clear about the impact of that for staff. Having said that, it's quite clear if you look at the information that's come through the State Service Commission that what's already been agreed through our enterprise bargaining will remain for the period. So I think I'll leave it at that. I'm very happy to take questions on any matters of the report, and of course happy, Adrian, if you think there are other things that it might be worthwhile bringing to the council's attention.
I just wondered, Dawn, look, there is so much work to do on the strategy, and there is so much that we don't know, but you are evolving your thinking in terms of the way that you're going to communicate the evolution of the strategy and the communication and interaction with stakeholders going forward. Can you just comment on that, most particularly for the benefit of folk who are listening in?
Yep, thanks, Chancellor, for the opportunity to do that. So, really importantly, recognising that the most pressing activity for us at the moment is to develop that strategy and vision. And within that will be the 5-year strategic plan, a vision that takes us out way into the 2020s to 2030, and falling out of that, then the annual plans that are looked at on a 3-year rolling cycle. To do that, and the process we're going to go through, it's going to be really important that we engage the staff and in fact the student body in that work, as well as our external stakeholders, in a variety of ways, in an interactive way. And so as we start to develop the green papers, these papers will be developed and indeed worked through a series of workshops and town halls and forums and our existing committee structures and our existing informal meeting structures, by way of testing out our thinking, the horizon scanning, how we want to be seen in the future, the value add that we can make into the future in terms of both our contribution to the nation, but beyond that into Oceania, and to ensure that we are engaging with staff in a way that they feel this is a strategy that we all own and share. The most important part for me of that strategy is really about getting the people and culture settings right. So whilst it's important to be clear about purpose and important to be clear about the direction of travel, it's the people and culture strategy that really sets the tone. And so going through the development of the strategy, we'll be making sure that we are involving people and giving some serious thought to the culture that we are inhabiting within the university and how people interact with us and how we interact with others. And that's something that all staff can be involved in. So even if staff are not directly involved in the development of the research strategy or the campus master plan, the estate strategy, or the financial targeted plan, they will all have an opportunity to be part of the values clarification and the defining characteristics of the university going forward.
Thank you. And just one point that might be of interest to also to folk on the call. Obviously, we're running our accommodation. We still have a big pastoral care wrap around that, but we've also got a very large population of students still in the halls. Can you just refresh my memory as to how many students there are that we've still got on campus in the halls?
Yep, I might just ask Adrian to give an update on that.
Something over 1,000, I seem to.
It's about 1,500.
1,500, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Adrian, which I think is somewhat different to what you're seeing in some of the other jurisdictions or other institutions. So with that said, questions from council, questions or comments from council for the Vice-Chancellor.
Dawn, I just wonder, and I wonder, Scott, whether you say, Dawn, you prepared something that you sent to the media. I wonder if you could circulate that to council so that we've got a clear understanding that when we're, you know, asked by people, that we have a clear understanding of what's going on with the accommodation.
I think that's a really good idea, Cecilia. So we had a drafted response that went also out to Chloe Swarbrick and a few others who've been interested in knowing what we're doing. So we've got some very clear messages which may be helpful for you to be able to share if people are asking you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chancellor, just through you, congratulations on the Sustainability Award. That's fantastic. I'm not sure how big the application is, but it would be quite useful if it's not too big to pop that into the Resource Centre for diligence so we can see what factors we're reporting on and what activities we're doing, because we don't really have a great deal of visibility of what was in that report or that application.
Wendy, could we perhaps get you to chase that up?
It is extremely large.
It is. It's quite extensive. And Pamela, I was just wondering if you could if there's a way of summarising it in some way.
I think we would be better to summarise it because it's a response to quite specific questions, and quite a large part of the set of information we don't actually have because they're research metrics that Thomson's Reuters, that Elsevier develop and that the Times Hire people use. Right. So we have a set of scores that we can send through, but the portfolio itself is quite considerable.
Okay, well, maybe an executive summary then.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just in terms of the strategy, I mean, that's quite a useful piece of work, although a bit distracted at the moment with COVID-19 activities. Presumably that will also cover sort of our view of workforce for the future and any paradigm shifts in international versus domestic.
So exactly that. So of course, part of the strategy, we're looking at the size, shape and composition of the university going forward in the context of the global shift, which is a paradigm shift in higher education, as well as what's relevant for us in terms of UOA in the nation and in our region. That includes looking at, for example, the ratio of undergrad to postgrad, the ratio of international to domestic, the ratio, the mix in terms of discipline mix. There's a whole set of parameters that we look at there. And of course, there's also the volume and quality question as well, because we're a research intensive university and it's important that we make sure that what we develop is distinctive for the longer term.
Good, thank you.
So other questions? Okay, so we will note that report. Thank you for that.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yes,
Scott?
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Dawn. She mentioned that the Te Reo language plan was being launched tomorrow, and she acknowledged Cindy and the team, and I just want to tautoko that acknowledgement of them. But is that going to be accessible in any way for people like myself and others that are not on campus to have a look at?
Yep. So I'll make sure that that we circulate the information around that about that to you, John, because the language plan is broader than the university, and I'm saying the app is going to be launched tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, it'll be Monday. But yes, that's something that I'm hopeful will mean that people will start to use that app as opposed to some of the other ones that are available that have been produced through the universities in New Zealand.
Okay, thanks. Right, so we'll note that report and we will move to Senate matters. And I think I saw John Morrow earlier. I think he's somewhere nearby. John, are you there?
Yes, I am, Scott, yes.
Whereas I am comforted by that. Right, we're in your hands.
Okay, thanks very much, Chancellor. Part A, recommendations from Senate requiring to be considered and received by Council. Of the academic matters, there are 4 new academic programs which have been developed by the Faculty of Business and Economics, and we seek approval for these programs to be advanced to QAP for its consideration. These programs are interesting ones. The first involves changes to the Bachelor of Commerce, the major undergraduate qualification in that faculty, and the main points about the change are to introduce a multidisciplinary core of 4 courses in the first year, and also to produce a capstone or to require a capstone course in the last year of study, which gives students an opportunity to integrate what they've learned over the course of their studies. And this revised program reflects the outcome of program reviews and significant work by the faculty. In addition, there are 3 postgraduate qualifications: a Master of Business Analytics, a Master of Business with some discrete specializations, and also a Master of Information Governance. The last of these programs has been developed by the Department of Commercial Law. These programs are all available in 180 or 120 versions for candidates with appropriate entry qualifications. And these programs reflect the faculty's attempt to identify new areas which will meet the needs of the business and wider community in New Zealand. That's all I have to say on the Senate matters, Chancellor.
So questions for John regarding the Senate matters? Okay.
Sorry, Scott.
Yep.
Sorry, John. Can you just confirm to me, does the capstone course, it doesn't add time to the sort of minimum time of the degree, does it?
No, it's part of the regular structure of the program, and it's taken in the typically in the last semester of study. So
But it's a compulsory course.
It's a compulsory course. Yeah,
Right.
Students have a great deal of flexibility about what particular focus they take in responding to that opportunity.
Right. Okay. which is quite a change for the commerce degree.
It is, yes, and it follows capstones which have been introduced in other programs.
Okay, so this will be part of our strategic thinking then going forward. If it's considered an appropriate way to close out a course, then perhaps it's applicable across the wide range of courses.
Yes, I think that's the case, and it provides students with an opportunity to reflect on the range of on the range of components that they've studied in the course of a program, and to pull them together in some sort of coherent and interesting way.
Okay, thank you.
And I note there was a really good list of people who had input into that work. So anything else on Senate? That being the case, I will move that the recommendations in Part A of the report of Senate from April this year be adopted and that Parts B and C be noted. Can I have a seconder, please?
I will.
Thank you very much. Who was
Kath.
that? Who was it?
Kath.
Kath, beautiful. There's your smiling face. It's tricky. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move to correspondence. Just echoing what Dawn said a little earlier, I got as Chancellor last night a note from Peter Hughes, who's Head of State Services, just encouraging pay restraint. So there's nothing new in that. So we will move. Is there any other correspondence that I'm not aware of that I need to be aware of? No. So we will move to item 9. Other decisions for noting. Is there anything else? I don't think so. Is there any general business? Anyone require a leave of absence? That being the case, we will move to Part B, and I will move that the public be excluded from Part B of this meeting. However, that Adrian Cleland, Professors Metzen, Morrow, Peter Gutzel, Pamela Moss, Todd Somerville, Bridget Fitzpatrick, Wendy and Richard Elliott be permitted to remain. And with that said, we will move to Part B. And Richard, do you need to give me a signal? Maybe.
We're all good, Scott. Thank you.
We're all good.